This instructional video provides general steps and recommendations for the installation of the Thorium vessel monitoring system. Please complete all work in a professional manner. Electrical work should be performed by a qualified electrician. It is important to take great care in determining the best place to mount the hardware. The antenna in the dome must have a clear view of the sky and be as unobstructed as possible. Try to keep the dome out of the direct transmit beam from other antennas, especially the radar. Also, please be aware of the vessel's GPS navigation system, as you do not want to transmit directly into the vessel's GPS antenna. And acknowledge the vessel's function and whether the thorium will interfere with regular operations. The thorium package includes standard mount, optional mounts may vary, mounting bolts, junction box, power conditioner, signal cable, power cable, accessory pack, antenna dome, tablet, and its charger. Please have available the following tools to complete installation of the thorium. Torque socket bits T10 for junction box, torque socket bits T20 for dome and brackets, 13 mm hollow offset tubular socket wrench, 15 mm wrench, CLS wrench, described in a moment, crimping pliers, standard pliers, silicone RTV, electrical clamps, Phillips head screwdriver, wire cutters, wire strippers, soldering iron, solder, flux is required, heat shrink tubing, fuse hardware, 5 to 15 amps. Thorium satellite communication components are located within the dome. That is why it must be installed outside in an area free of obstructions between it and the sky. Select the mounting location of the thorium components. Be aware of the signal cable length, which is 15 meters or about 50 feet between the junction box inside the cabin and the dome outside. The power cable connecting the junction box to the power supply is 5 meters in length or approximately 16 feet. Make sure the dome is at least 2 meters or 6 feet away from and not below navigation devices on board. In all cases, the dome should be located outside the radar beam. You may prepare your dome either away from its final location or at the mount point. This will depend on both the position of the dome in relation to the junction box and if feeding the signal wire through existing cable channels on the vessel is required. Apply silicone RTV to the 4 mounting holes in the dome. Then align the supplied standard mount to the screw holes. Using the T20 torque wrench, attach the mount to the bottom of the dome. Use caution when tightening, as too much force stripped the threads in the dome's plastic casing. Remove the protective cover for the signal cable. Then attach the keyed cable connector. Then, using the CLS wrench, tighten the connector until it is fully engaged. Do not over-tighten the plastic connector. Once that is completed, protect the connection by wrapping the area with outdoor UV tape or silicone RTV. When choosing the location for your junction box, be aware of the power cable length between it and your power supply. Please note the junction box should not be mounted in direct sunlight or near heat sources and should be placed inside the cabin to avoid risk of water damage. The junction box must also be placed no more than 5 meters or 15 feet from the vessel battery and within 15 meters or 50 feet from the dome, allowing for the cable runs. Prepare your work area, laying out all necessary equipment needed to complete the junction box mount. Please note there are 2 extra purple pins. Remember to put the feed through on the cable first during preparation, or you will have difficulty performing the attachment. Cut the hole for the cable gland, which will slide onto the already routed signal cable. In order to prepare the cable, you will need a length of small wire for the shield, otherwise known as the drain wire. Deposit trash into the original box in order to keep the area clean. Remove 3 to 4 inches of insulation off the cable, using caution not to cut the shield. Leave yourself 3/4 of an inch of shield and be sure and leave enough cable for service loops in case of a mistake. Solder and tin the drain wire to the shield. The signal cable wires are color-coded. Put heat shrink on one of the remaining white wires so you can identify the drain wire and differentiate it from the signal wire. You can use your soldering iron or heat gun to shrink the tubing. Once you have finished, your prepared wires should look like this. To verify, there is a diagram located inside the junction box cover that identifies each wire by color code. Make sure you trim off enough insulation so that the copper wire goes all the way through and sticks out the other side of the pin when moved onto the wire. Next, take the purple pins and spin them onto the wire. Then, crimp the wire. Check to make sure the connection is solid. Repeat these steps for each of the wires. Once all the wires have been prepared, trim the top of each. Make sure all the excess wiring is placed in a designated trash receptacle to keep the area clean. Next, loosen the cable glands on the junction box and route the cable through. Please remember to apply heat shrink around the openings. Now that you have a fused power source, leave enough cable to provide yourself with enough work area so as to avoid having to make the connection under the console. Strip a portion of the power cable 3 to 4 inches, revealing the 2 wires. Make sure the power is off. Crimp the wires. You must check the voltage. Voltage should be above 12 volts. It can be 12 volts or 24 volts depending on the power conditioner. Tip: attach the mount first in order to avoid the need to wire the power conditioner later under the console. The power conditioner will simply clip onto the mount. The input power to the power conditioner comes from the fuse. The output power supplies the junction box. When preparing to attach the power cable to the junction box, remove the shielding from the wires as required. Apply shrink-wrap tubing to the cable end in order to protect the connection. Attach the terminal lugs to the power cable. As was done in the signal wire connection process, prepare the power cable wires the same way and be sure and crimp each wire well to ensure a solid connection. With the cable glands already in place, route the power cable into the junction box. Once the power cable has been routed through to the junction box, it is now time to connect the wires to the junction locations on the terminal block. Again, the color schematic is shown on the diagram on the inside of the junction box. Repeat for each of the connections. You will notice a serial port on the junction box. The serial port is not used in normal VMS operation. Mount the junction box to its designated location using the 4 supplied wood screws. Ensure that the Bluetooth wires are protected with silicone RTV, then close using the appropriate screws. When closing the outer covering of the junction box, ensure there is no pinching of wires feeding into or inside the unit. Once properly installed, supply power to the unit. You will see a series of indicators light up on the unit. Once the top green light is steady, this indicates the Thorium is powered and ready for use. In normal mode, you will see the green light displayed, meaning the main power supply is active. If you lose power supply, the green light will flash, indicating the failure must be identified in order to restore the system to normal operation.
Once the dome, junction box, and power conditioner are mounted, you may power it on. Verify with Salus America that your VMS unit is activated. Call 301-925-4411. Do not turn the tablet on before the unit is activated, or you will risk losing tablet registration.
Please be mindful of all safety protocols. Fishing and other commercial vessels have many features that can be inherently dangerous. Thank you for purchasing the Thorium Vessel Monitoring System. For additional information and questions, please visit our websites at clsamerica.com and thoriumvms.com.